So now we have BlueJ installed, we can open it and we can start running our first Java program. So what I'm going to do is open up BlueJ. It's opened up on my other monitor, so I'll bring it across here. And this is the BlueJ IDE. So the first thing that we need to do is either start a new project or open an existing one. So if we wanted to start a new project, I would go Project, New Project. I would choose a location where I want to save the project, and I would give it a name. What we're going to actually do in this tutorial though is open an existing one. So I'll cancel that and I'll go Project, Open Projects. A new project is for a new project. That's if we want to start coding a new project from scratch. Open Project is when we're going to open a project that we've already started coding or someone else has written. So I'm in my book projects folder. This was the folder you downloaded in the previous tutorial, the book projects, the ones that have all the projects that we're going to be working on throughout the session. And I'm going to go into chapter 2 and I'm going to open Better Ticket Machine. So nothing left in here, so I select this folder and we can see it is opened. First thing to notice is it has this here called Ticket Machine. Now this is called a class. Classes are the fundamental building block of Java. And we're going to talk more about those in later tutorials, in later lessons. Couple of other things before we get back to this is when you're programming, you should have your terminal window open when you're using BlueJ. So I'm going to go View, Show Terminal, and I'm going to go Options, and I'm going to make sure Record Method Calls is on. I also like to have unlimited buffering on. We'll talk about that in a later class, but we want to have Record Method Calls selected here. Okay, so coming back here, a few other things that might be of interest. Under Tools, Preferences. There's the font size here for your code. 13 should be good, but I always like to have display line numbers shown. And I'll show you what that's for in a minute. Okay, so coming back to our class here, our Ticket Machine class. Now this window here is where all of your classes are going to be displayed in your project. And we only have one class in this project. And if I double click on this class, it'll open up this, and this is my code window. This is where I can view the code associated with this class. Now it might not make much sense to you. Well, some of you might have done programming once, so you might understand this, or some of you who've done Java before. If you haven't done Java before, don't worry, we're going to learn in coming lessons what everything in this class does. But this is basically the code that is required to run this class. Now you'll notice if I make any changes to this code, we suddenly get grey lines on our class. If you open up a project and it has grey lines, before you can run it, you need to push compile. And we'll talk about what compile does in a later lesson. We'll talk about what goes on behind the scenes when you push compile. But for now, just realize any time you make a change to your code, you need to compile it. Another thing, if we have an error in our code, you'll notice our class has red lines all over it. This means we need to fix the error before we can run our code. And when we look at our code, we can see that the error is on this line 36, and that's the line that I need to fix. So once I fix that, we can see the red lines are gone, and it's back to having grey lines, so we need to compile again. Also notice that I have line numbers down the side here. That's what I was showing you before in Tools and Preferences, where I ticked Show Line Numbers. You want to have line numbers selected so you can see what line you're on when you're writing some code. So let's do something with this program. Now the first thing that we're going to do is create an object or an instance of this class. We'll use this terminology quite a lot, but it means the same thing. If I talk about an object or I talk about an instance of a class, I'm talking about the same thing. And in the next lesson, we'll talk about what the differences are between a class and an object. For right now, just know that we need to create an object or an instance of a class to run our program. To do that, I'm going to right click on it. And I'm going to select this top option here, New Ticket Machine, int cost. So I select that. And when I create an instance of this, it requires me to pass an integer. An integer is a number. Sometimes you need to pass things when you create an object. We need to pass things, they're called parameters. Other times you don't, and we'll talk about why that is in a later class as well. But to create an object of ticket machine, it needs an integer or a number. So I'm going to put in 50. The second thing it needs is the name of the instance. So I'm going to call it my ticket. You can give this any name you want, but objects always follow a naming convention called lower camel case. You'll find in Java everything has a naming convention, and it's very important that you follow it, because no matter where you go in the world, you might finish your degree, you get a job in Australia, you get a job in America, England, India, wherever you go, everybody's going to follow the same naming convention. Objects are always called always named lower camel case. That means the first letter of the first word is lowercase, then every other letter is uppercase, and there are no spaces between them, and there are no underscores between them. So now notice I called my instance my ticket, and I passed it an integer 50. So I'm passing it a parameter, the integer 50. We can see in my terminal window, it's written ticket machine, my ticket equals new ticket machine. This is the code that is required to create a new object. So it's a type ticket machine. This is the name of the object, and I've said it's equal to new ticket machine, and there's the 50 I passed. We can do another one. If I create new ticket machine, and I'll leave it called the default name that BlueJ gives it, and I'm going to pass this one 45. So notice it's called ticket MA1. Notice this is also lower camel case, and I'm passing the parameter I'm passing is an integer that's equal to 45. So ticket machine, ticket ma equals new ticket machine 45. So I've created two objects, and we're going to talk in the next lesson about the relationship between objects and classes. So now I can run methods, what we call methods on these objects. So let's just work with this first one. So if I right click on it, I can see all of my methods here. Methods are things that do jobs. And we'll talk more about methods. We're going to talk about methods in just about every topic for the rest of this session, different kinds of methods. So I can run int get balance. My balance is 0. I can run insert money. Notice insert money takes an int. So let's do that. We need to give it an int. So I'm going to give it 100. All right, and notice whenever I run any of my methods or run the methods on this object, we have some code printed out in our terminal window. And as the session goes on, you'll start understanding exactly what this code is doing. But it's a good idea to always have your terminal window open so you start becoming familiar with it. So now I can go get balance, and notice it's 100. I set the balance, I inserted some money, and now the balance is 100. So let's insert some more money, 50. Okay, and now let's get the balance again, 150. And we'll try printing a ticket. So here, print a ticket. The BlueJ line, ticket, 50 cents. So we have run our first program successfully. We've created an object and we've run some methods. So let's have a talk about what those do in the next lesson.